Stop being dramatic, Amanda. Your sister would never do something like that. My mother's dismissive tone cut through the hospital room as I lay there, my vision still blurry and my head pounding. In the corner, my sister Olivia stood with her arms crossed, that familiar smirk playing on her lips. I'm Amanda Collins, 24, and I've spent my entire life being told I'm too sensitive, dramatic, or attention-seeking. But this time was different. This time, I knew exactly what had happened, even if my family refused to believe me. It started at our monthly family dinner. Everything seemed normal. Mom's lasagna, Dad's bad jokes, and Olivia's subtle jabs at my life choices. I'd recently been promoted to lead researcher at a pharmaceutical lab, while Olivia, 2 years younger, was still finding herself on our parents' dime. Another late night at the lab? Olivia asked, her voice dripping with fake concern as she poured me a glass of wine. You should really get out more, live a little. I took a sip, noticing something slightly off about the taste, but Mom had already launched into her favorite topic. When was I going to settle down and give her grandchildren? I ignored the strange bitter aftertaste, attributing it to the new wine brand. 20 minutes later, the room started spinning. I don't feel right, I mumbled, gripping the table. My parents exchanged knowing looks, the same ones they'd shared since we were kids whenever they thought I was being theatrical. Maybe if you didn't work so much, you could handle a glass of wine, Olivia suggested sweetly, but through my increasingly blurred vision, I caught the gleam in her eyes. The next thing I knew, I was on the floor, my body convulsing. The last thing I heard before everything went black was Olivia's voice. See, always has to be the center of attention. I woke up in a hospital, my parents hovering nearby, their faces a mix of annoyance and embarrassment. The doctors say it was probably just exhaustion, Mom explained, patting my hand condescendingly. You always push yourself too hard. But I knew better. I'd been working with chemical compounds long enough to recognize the symptoms. She put something in my drink. I insisted, my voice hoarse. Olivia spiked my wine. Here we go again, Dad sighed, running a hand through his gray hair. Always blaming your sister for everything. Olivia stepped forward, tears welling up in her perfect green eyes. How could you accuse me of something so horrible? I'm your sister. Her performance was flawless. It always had been. Growing up, Olivia had mastered the art of torment. She'd break my things and cry about accidentally finding them broken. She'd push me down the stairs and sob about how I tripped. Every time, my parents believed her golden child over me, their difficult daughter. But this time was different. This time, I had science on my side. When the nurse came in to check my vitals, I grabbed her hand. I need a toxicology screen, I whispered. Please, I know something was in my drink. The nurse looked at me, then at my family, before nodding slightly. Dr. Matthews already ordered one, honey. Standard procedure for unexplained collapses. Relief flooded through me. Finally, there would be proof. This is ridiculous, Mom declared, gathering her designer purse. We're not going to sit here and indulge these paranoid fantasies. Olivia, let's go get some coffee while your sister calms down. As they left the room, Olivia lingered behind for a moment. The caring sister act dropped, replaced by the cold smile I knew too well. You know what your problem is, sis, she whispered. You never learned to just stay in your lane. Always trying to outshine me with your fancy job and perfect life. Sometimes people need a little reminder of their place. I stared at her, finally understanding. This wasn't just her usual cruelty. She'd actually tried to hurt me because I was succeeding in life. Because for once, I was doing better than her. The blood test will show what you did, I said firmly. She laughed, the sound like ice cracking. Please, it'll be your word against mine. Who do you think they'll believe? They never choose you. As she sauntered out, her words rang in my ears. She was right, they never did choose me. But maybe they wouldn't have a choice this time. I reached for my phone, hands shaking slightly, and called the one person who would always believe me. My best friend Kate, a detective with the local police. I need your help, I said when she answered, and I need you to get here before those test results come back. On my way, she replied without hesitation. Don't let them discharge you. I lay back against the hospital pillows, my head still fuzzy but my mind clearer than it had been in years. Olivia had finally gone too far, and this time, I had proof growing in a lab vial, one molecule at a time. The game was about to change. Kate arrived before my family returned, her detective badge glinting under the harsh hospital lights. She took one look at my pale face and clenched her jaw. "Tell me everything," she said, pulling out her notepad. I explained about the wine, the bitter taste, Olivia's behavior, and years of similar incidents that had been dismissed. As I spoke, Kate's expression grew darker. "I'm getting security footage from a hospital entrance and parking lot," she said, "and I'm having a word with Dr. Matthews about expediting those test results." Just then, my parents and Olivia returned. Mom's face immediately soured at the sight of Kate's uniform. "What's this now?" Dad demanded. "Amanda, you called the police? This is a family matter." "Detective Wilson," Kate introduced herself formally. "I'm here investigating a potential case of intentional poisoning." Olivia's smirk faltered for a split second before she burst into tears. "How could you do this to me?" she sobbed, clutching Mom's arm. "Your own sister." "Mrs. Collins," Kate addressed my mother, ignoring Olivia's performance. "Were you aware that your daughter Olivia has had 3 restraining orders filed against her by former roommates?" The room went silent. Mom's face paled. That's impossible." "All filed in the last 2 years," Kate continued, reading from her notes. "All citing similar incidents of food tampering and suspicious accidents." Those girls were jealous. Olivia protested, but her voice had lost its confident edge. "They were trying to ruin my reputation. Just like Amanda's trying to ruin your reputation now," Kate asked coolly. "Interesting pattern." Before anyone could respond, Dr. Matthews entered, holding a file. His expression was grim. "I have the preliminary toxicology results," he announced. "We found significant levels of benzodiazepines in Ms. Collins' system, specifically a type commonly used to sedate patients. This combination with alcohol could have been fatal." Mom sank into a chair while Dad stood frozen. Olivia's tears dried instantly. That's impossible," she stammered. "Amanda probably took something herself. She works in a lab, she has access to drugs." "Actually," Kate interjected, "the specific drug found isn't one used in Amanda's research facility. However, it is prescribed to you, Olivia, for your anxiety attacks." I watched as the careful facade my sister had maintained for years began to crack. Her eyes darted between our parents, desperately seeking their usual support, but they seemed stunned into silence. "Security footage shows you making 3 trips to your car during dinner," Kate continued. "Would you like to explain what you were retrieving?" "I want a lawyer," Olivia snapped, her mask completely falling away. "I'm not saying another word." "Olivia?" Mom's voice was barely a whisper. "Tell me you didn't." But Olivia's silence spoke volumes. For the first time in our lives, our parents were seeing her true face. "Mrs. Collins," Dr. Matthews said firmly, "your daughter Amanda could have died. The amount of sedatives in her system, combined with alcohol, could have stopped her heart. This wasn't a prank or a cry for attention. It was attempted murder." Dad stumbled backward, looking like he aged 10 years in 10 minutes. "All those times," he muttered. "All those accidents Amanda told us about. Were they really accidents, Mr. Collins?" Kate asked, though we all knew the answer. Security arrived to escort Olivia out of the room. As they led her away, she turned to her parents one last time, desperate for their intervention. But this time, there was no defense, no dismissal of my claims, no protection for their precious golden child. "I did it for you," she screamed as they pulled her away. "She was always making us look bad with her perfect job and her perfect life. You never loved me as much as her." I watched my parents crumble under the weight of their own willful blindness. Years of ignored warnings, dismissed concerns, and enabled behavior had led to this moment. "Amanda," Mom choked out, reaching for my hand. We didn't know. We didn't want to see." I pulled my hand away. "You didn't want to know," I corrected her. "There's a difference." Kate squeezed my shoulder supportively. "We'll need to take your formal statement once you're feeling stronger. For now, rest. You're safe." As my parents left the room, shoulders slumped in shame, I felt no satisfaction in their guilt, only relief that the truth was finally out and sadness for the family bonds that might never be repaired. But at least now they knew. At least now they couldn't pretend anymore. 3 months after the hospital incident, I sat in the courthouse waiting room, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. The preliminary hearing for Olivia's case was today, And despite my outward calm, my heart was racing. You don't have to stay for the whole thing, Kate assured me, sitting beside me in her formal police uniform. Your statement is enough. But I needed to stay. I needed to see this through. My parents entered, looking older and more subdued than I'd ever seen them. Mom had lost weight, and Dad's hair had gone completely gray. They'd been trying to reach out over the past months, calling, sending letters, even attempting to visit my apartment. Each time, I'd maintained my distance, not ready to bridge the gap their years of denial had created. Amanda, Mom started, taking a tentative step toward me. We've been seeing a family therapist. We know now that we failed you. Both of you, really. I really looked at her, and saw something I'd never seen before. Genuine remorse. We enabled her, Dad added, his voice rough. We made excuses because it was easier than facing the truth. And you paid the price for our weakness. Before I could respond, the court officer called us in. As we filed into the courtroom, I caught my first glimpse of Olivia since that night. She sat at the defendant's table, wearing a beige pantsuit that made her look impossibly young and vulnerable. Exactly the image she was going for. But something was different. The confident smirk was gone, replaced by a tightness around her eyes that spoke of fear. Real fear, perhaps for the first time in her life. The evidence was overwhelming. Kate had done her job thoroughly, uncovering not just the recent poisoning but a pattern of behavior dating back years. Former roommates came forward with their stories. Old medical records showed suspicious accidents. Even Olivia's ex-boyfriend testified about her threatening behavior when he tried to end their relationship. When it was my turn to testify, I spoke clearly and calmly, detailing not just the poisoning but the years of escalating incidents that led to it. As I spoke, I watched my parents' faces crumple with each revealed detail they had dismissed or ignored. The defendant didn't just attempt to harm her sister, the prosecutor concluded. She systematically terrorized her while hiding behind a carefully constructed facade of innocence enabled by those around her. The judge's decision was swift and firm. Olivia would undergo psychiatric evaluation pending trial, with no contact orders in place for all her previous victims, including me. As they led her away, Olivia finally dropped her act completely. You think this changes anything? She spat in my direction. You'll always be the one who tore this family apart. But her words didn't hurt anymore. They were just the desperate cries of someone who'd finally lost control. Outside the courthouse, standing in the bright autumn sunlight, my parents approached me again. We've sold the house, Mom said quietly. Too many bad memories. We're moving closer to the city. Closer to you if you let us try to rebuild. We know we don't deserve a second chance, Dad added, but we're hoping you might give us one anyway. I studied their faces, the hope, the regret, the genuine desire to make amends. I'm starting therapy too, I told them. Every Tuesday. If you're serious about rebuilding, you can meet me for coffee after my sessions. Small steps. The relief on their faces was palpable. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a start. Kate drove me home, both of us processing the day's events. You know what amazes me? She said as we pulled up to my apartment. Through everything, you never lost your compassion. You wanted justice, not revenge. I thought about that as I entered my apartment, immediately greeted by my newly adopted rescue cat, Luna. She'd been abused by her previous owners, yet still found it in herself to trust again. Maybe she had the right idea. That evening, I received a text from Mom. Found this while packing. Attached was a photo of me at my college graduation, beaming with pride. I remembered that day, how Olivia had tried to overshadow it by announcing her plans to move to Paris, how our parents had cut my celebration dinner short to discuss her travel arrangements. But looking at it now, I saw something different. I saw a young woman who had achieved something remarkable, despite everything, who had built a life and career she was proud of, who had found true friends who believed in her, who had survived and thrived. I saved the photo and texted back. Coffee next Tuesday at 3, don't be late. Sometimes healing comes not from forgetting the past, but from facing it head on and choosing to move forward anyway. My family would never be what it once was, but maybe, just maybe, it could be something new, something real. And this time, I would be strong enough to make sure the truth stayed in the light.